Hi there, it's Gemma here, A Story and a Song, and today I am starting a new series on my channel about true crime books. So I wanted to start today with a case from the UK and one of my favourite true crime books, which is Wicked Beyond Belief by Michael Bilton. Now, Michael Bilton is writing in this case about the Yorkshire Ripper investigation. Peter Sutcliffe killed 13 women between 1975 and 1980 and was eventually caught by a policeman who arrested him for being in a red light district with a sex worker. So the book basically focuses on the investigation itself rather than Peter Sutcliffe, and doesn't go into any detail about why he did what he did or about him as a person. If you want to read about that in any detail, I would recommend Somebody's Husband, Somebody's Son by Gordon Byrne. But in this case, I think that Wicked Beyond Belief is by far the more interesting book because it has not only information on the investigation, but also the backdrop as to the society in Yorkshire at the time and how these crimes kept on being committed. Now, like I said, Peter Sutcliffe killed 13 women, the majority of which were said at the time to be sex workers. However, that has been disputed in some cases. And for more information on that, I recommend the BBC 4 documentary that was recently released, which is 3 one-hour parts and has some very good interviews with both the survivors and the victims' families. Now, Michael Bilton goes into great depth about why and how the investigation failed, and he draws very heavily from a report, the Byford Report, which was produced in 1982, however wasn't released to the general public until much more recently in 2006. He and the Byford Report highlighted a number of failures on the part of Yorkshire Police, including the fact that Peter Sutcliffe was interviewed 9 separate times regarding the investigation. He was seen in red light districts, he was caught with a hammer in a red light district. A friend of his wrote an anonymous letter to the police saying that he felt that his friend was suspicious, but he was never, taken into custody. Even though a detective at the time, a young detective, interviewed him and said, look, he really looks like the photo fits the survivors have helped us produce. I really think we should take this forward. But nothing was done. Partially nothing was done because of the terrible levels of administration in the investigation. As I said, this was before the advent of computers and everything was done by hand cross-referencing, and also because of the hoax tapes produced by the man later known as Wearside Jack. He was a hoaxer who produced a series of letters and a tape claiming to be the Ripper himself, and this was taken very seriously by the investigation, especially by the lead investigator George Oldfield. And several men, including Peter Sutcliffe, were dismissed because they did not have Geordie accents and their handwriting did not match that of Wearside Jack. Now, like I said, there were several photo fits, and this was from survivors of attacks believed to be committed by Sutcliffe. However, the survivors' accounts were dismissed, and so were their descriptions in photo fits, because of how firmly George Oldfield felt that these were genuine. Now, the hoaxer was eventually caught in 2013 and is serving a prison sentence for that, so he was eventually caught. So this quote from the Byford Report really does exemplify what was going on at the time. The ineffectiveness of the major incident room was a serious handicap to the Ripper investigation. While it should have been the effective nerve centre of the whole police operation, the backlog of unprocessed information resulted in the failure to connect vital pieces of related information. This serious fault in the central index system allowed Peter Sutcliffe to continually slip through the net. In addition to the previous, being interviewed 9 times, carrying the hammer, the letter, there were also the investigation into a £5 note which was found on one of the bodies of the victims, Jean Jordan. It was found to be a fresh £5 note. It was found to have come from a certain bank, gone to a certain payroll, and it should have been easy to trace and it should have led back to Peter Sutcliffe, but it didn't. And partially this was due to the confusion from the Wearside Jack tapes, and as the BBC 4 documentary says quite rightly, probably partly from personal arrogance on the part of George Oldfield. Michael Bilton has done really well in getting all this information together, going through it, making excellent use of the Byford report, of other things that have come to light through freedom of information, and through people that he has managed to get to speak on the record, including the young constable, maybe constable detective, who spoke to Sutcliffe and went to his superior officer and said, we should speak to this man. And funnily enough, that constable, I believe, never progressed any further beyond sergeant, and it's his opinion, or it's very heavily implied that it's his opinion that because he spoke out against the West Yorkshire Police, he was punished for that, which, given the level of corruption that seems to have been going on in West Yorkshire at the time, is completely believable, and also just the sheer level of, you know, arrogance from people like George Oldfield, who were completely out of their depth when dealing with something like the case of Peter Sutcliffe. So, if you are interested at all in true crime, I highly recommend this book. It's a great insight into how cases were being run in the 70s and the 80s, which was a time when there were, you know, almost a sad boom in serial killers, both here in America and other places, and how overwhelmed the police were because they weren't used to dealing with people like Peter Sutcliffe. And it's a great way of seeing how British police investigations have developed, things like the Home Office Large Inquiry System, or HOLMES, and how the findings of the Byford report have really made a difference to British policing. So if you're at all interested in police investigation techniques and police investigations, how they are run, I highly recommend this book. Is it gory? No. Is it a real deep dive into Peter Sutcliffe? No. Should it be? No, I don't think it should. There are plenty of books that go into deep dives about criminal psychology, about serial killers, about why they do what they do, and certainly I'll probably mention some of them later on in this series. But I think Michael Bilton does a great job of putting the victims first, really talking about the investigation and what we can do better in the future to catch people like Peter Sutcliffe. And Spencer makes an appearance. Hello, look at the camera. He's not going to look at the camera. Oh, there he is. How angry does he look? Yes. Right, off you go. Before I go, if you liked this book, I'd like to recommend a podcast for you. I will recommend Case File True Crime, which is a pretty long running podcast that covers cases from all over the world. Very well written, very factually told, and I look forward to every week when it comes out. It did a really good series recently on Ivan Milat, the backpacker murders, which went into a lot of depth on the investigation, which I liked. It did a good deep dive into the Golden State Killer as well. Generally, I would just really recommend it. Again, not what I would deem exploitive or a lot of gory details, so if you're not into that, you'll probably still like this. As always, you can follow me on Goodreads, you can follow me on Twitter. I would love recommendations, I love to hear about new channels, and if there's anyone else who likes true crime, then I would appreciate recommendations below. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye!